Hi, it's Brian. Welcome to the Awards Contender. I'm very excited to welcome Nick Ruhrkraut from the Oscar Wilde podcast to my YouTube channel today. For the very first time, Oscar nominations are just days away, and we are giving our final acting Oscar nominations. How are we doing, Nick?
I'm doing great. Thanks so much for having me, Brian. We haven't shared a podcast, either you on ours or ours on yours, in a very long time. So I'm excited to be back.
Yeah, it's been a few years. I was on Oscar Wilde once, I think in like 2021 maybe, and then I had you on my former podcast, Film at 50, twice.
Yeah.
In the early weeks of that podcast. So like time is flying, Nick.
Right? But, I know, early 2020s.
Yeah, I've been doing this YouTube channel for more than 3 years now, and I was like, it's time to get you on here today, especially with Oscar nominations so close. Like it's coming just a few days from now, and if we were going to give final predictions for like every category, we would be here for like 6 hours.
Exactly.
So I thought let's go with the 4 categories we all love, the acting categories. And as of this recording, SAG just happened, and that really shook things up. Like, what did you think of the SAG nominations? Like, how are we feeling right now, Nick, about our Oscar predictions?
Things are changing in terms of nominations and what I'm predicting. Some of the categories today we'll talk about are pretty set in stone, and some of the other ones, via the SAG nominations, they kind of wanted to do their own thing. So... we could be really close. We could be far off. It depends on some of the other ones coming, but we have the BAFTA long list. We had our Golden Globe ceremonies, our winners, and now we have the SAG nomination. So those are some of the big ones, I would say, leading up to the Oscar nominations.
Yeah, we have enough to go on now that I feel a little bit better about my final predictions. Like in October, November, I give early predictions. And they're looking pretty bad right now, Nick. Actor looks okay. We've all kind of known who was getting into actor, but the other three, I've been wrong about a lot so far. So I thought it would be fun today to start with Best Actress, my favorite category. Let's dig in. I will give like what I think are the top 2, like the most likely to be nominated, and then we'll go back and forth. So in Best Actress. In Best Actress at the 97th Academy Awards, my top 2 are Mikey Madison, Honora, and Demi Moore, The Substance. Do you agree with that?
I agree. If we're going in order, I may have switched them, but I agree with those 2. I think they're pretty much locked. We have some other potential nominees that have all of their stats, minus maybe a win here or there, but I think they're pretty locked. I will say Mikey has been up there all season.
Right. Yeah, I mean, in November, I did not predict Demi Moore to get an Oscar nomination because of the subject matter of the film. I just was like, maybe she'll get a Globe nomination, but like, she's not going to get in at the Oscars for a movie like that. And I think her beating Mikey Madison at the Globes was huge. She gave maybe the speech of the night. And I mean, she has a narrative and she gives such a great performance in that, even though it is kind of a horror film and it's got genre elements and it's twisted and weird and things. Like, I am just so pleased to know not only is she getting the nomination for sure at this point, but she could win the Oscar. That's crazy.
Yeah. I don't think anyone had predicted her in the top 5, at least. Maybe in the past couple weeks, everyone has started to, but a month ago, for sure, any time before that, there's no way. Yeah. So it's kind of the shock of the season, but I agree with you that it's a good shock in that, this movie, that we're finally happy that they are appreciating horror. Sometimes they don't, but it's also hit or miss on a movie that is introspective of Hollywood and that industry. And it's their industry. So that makes it more exciting too, that, it was such a grimy look at it in terms of sexism in there and all of those genre elements, like you mentioned. So I'm very happy for that. And maybe we'll mention more along the way. And looking at other categories, I don't know where we sit with that movie. Like, should we be predicting it more than we thought, again, just for the past couple of weeks?
Yeah, like, as of now, I still don't see it getting like 7 nominations. That would surprise me. But I think picture is possible. Director is still possible if they really love it.
Yeah.
We'll get to supporting actress and original screenplay. Like, it's possible it gets 4 or 5, but it might just be 2 or 3. I'm just thrilled. Even if this was it, even if this was the only nomination for the movie, I would still be happy. So
yeah,
that's really cool. We'll see what happens there. Of course, we have a long ways to go. I don't think Mikey Madison is out of it yet, even though we've had like the Globe win for Demi Moore. We'll see what happens like at Critics' Choice and things. Who is your next person, Nick, that you think is pretty likely getting an Oscar nomination for Best Actress?
I am nearly as locked on Carla Sofia Gascon as the two we mentioned. She, again, is longlisted at BAFTA. She has the Golden Globe and the SAG nominations. This movie is just doing so well within the industry, domestic and international. We've seen that win across seas, and she gave an incredible speech to end the night at the Globes too. So I think she has just as good a chance as Mikey or Demi and potentially other nominees too. What do you think?
Yeah, she's gotten in everywhere she needed to. Has she missed, she got the BAFTA long list, Golden Globe,
so.
Critics' Choice, SAG. Like, at this point, especially because, as you say, Amelia Perez is so beloved and it's getting nominated everywhere, why would she not make it in at the Oscars? Right. That would feel strange, you know? So, I've never gotten the sense that she can really be competitive to win. Maybe it'll happen at Critics' Choice or something will, surprise us. But I think she's pretty well set for the nomination. I would be shocked if she missed at the Oscars.
No, I agree. She's getting in. What about the other two? Who's your next in line? Who's your 4th spot?
Okay, so based on the stats and based on who's getting in where, I have, maybe a couple other people I'd love to see get in, but just based on the performance of these actresses, my 4th place slot, and I think she's getting the Oscar nomination, is Cynthia Erivo, Wicked. I think she's vulnerable. She could be. I feel like almost every year we have someone get in at the Globes, at Critics' Choice, at SAG, maybe even BAFTA, and then they miss the Oscar nomination. I feel like that happens almost every year. Yeah. And, because that's like a fantasy musical movie, it makes me a little bit hesitant about her. Like, she could miss. It wouldn't be the shocker of the century. But because Wicked is kind of overperforming like it did at SAG, it did even better at SAG than I expected. Yeah, I just feel like if we're going to give that movie a Best Picture nomination, supporting actress, it's going to get a bunch of nominations at the Oscars. It does feel strange to leave Cynthia Erivo off of Best Actress. I feel like she should get in, and I think she will.
I think she will too, and that SAG nomination really solidified that for me. I had her on the edge, and I think we're getting in the territory of we're not entirely sure about who could get in, and we could see some really big surprises in terms of international choices from here on out with 4 and 5. I think all of those reasons, Wicked just doing incredibly well, obviously beloved at the Globes and them winning their box office award. But when I talked about this movie on my podcast with Sophia Simonello on Oscar Wilde, I gave my one Oscar for the entire movie to Cynthia Erivo because I loved her so much. And actors are loving her. Fans are loving her. Everyone is loving her, and Ariana, obviously, and we'll get to her. But there's no reason not to nominate her. So I think she's definitely possible, and she would be my 4th pick also.
Okay. Yeah, and she's also a previous nominee. My 5 here that I have chosen, she's the only one with a previous Oscar nomination. So there's that too.
It's kind of crazy that, it's usually we're talking about one newcomer per category, and now it's 4 or 5, right?
Yeah. Yeah, sometimes we have like an acting category where all 5 nominees have gotten an Oscar nomination before,
Right.
and that's always, it's like the 2019 season, like I think supporting actor, where you had like Tom Hanks and Al Pacino and all of those guys, and they all had previous nominations. It's like, that can be kind of dull. And here we have a category that's mostly newcomers, including Demi Moore, 62-year-old Demi Moore.
That's
her
insane.
First nomination, which is great.
Yeah.
So I think at this point of the game, like this stage of the game, most people probably have those 4.
Mm-hmm.
Who is your 5th place? Who do you think gets that 5th place slot?
This is so hard because now it gets emotional, and it's who I want to get in.
Yeah.
And it may not be the smart choice, but I'm going to go with Marianne Jean-Baptiste. I know she wasn't nominated for the Golden Globe. She didn't get the SAG nomination, but she was on the BAFTA long list, and obviously that's a British list, so that makes sense for that. But I think there's really good potential. It could come down to Critics' Choice also, and just getting more love from here until next week. But she is such a fan with critics.
Yes.
She won the trifecta with New York, LA, and the National Society of Film Critics. One of 6 women, the first woman of color to do that.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a big achievement. I loved that movie. I loved her performance. There are some other things. It's being distributed by Bleecker Street, who maybe isn't the best at campaigning. We've looked at movies in the past few years of thinking of acting nominations, and it doesn't happen. But I think there's still potential. If we look back a few years, Penelope Cruz, she wasn't BAFTA shortlisted for Parallel Mothers, but she got the nom. And then also Kristen Stewart, who was shortlisted, but she missed SAG also. So it's not the end yet. But I'm curious, who do you have? And then we can maybe fight over the 5th spot.
Yeah, so Marianne Jean-Baptiste is my main alternate. It's very close for me because I kind of want to predict her. I think she gives one of the best performances of the year. It's such a great performance in that.
Yeah.
I just have to go with my gut on this one, and I know it's kind of silly just to go off of something like a Golden Globe win. I think Fernanda Torres is going to get that final slot for I'm Still Here. Even though she's not nominated at Critics' Choice or at SAG, she did not make the BAFTA long list.
Yeah.
I think there is something to her winning Best Actress in a Motion Picture Drama. And because of the Bleecker Street of it all, that's where I'm a little bit concerned about Marianne Jean-Baptiste.
Yeah.
Whereas Sony Pictures Classics, they get their actors in there. And I feel like Torres, there's like a lot of passion behind her in that movie. And I also feel like I'm Still Here could potentially overperform, like could get into like adapted screenplay, could get in a couple places. I don't know. I'm just, there's the narrative with her mom, Montenegro, and that Best Actress nomination she had in the 90s for Central Station. I don't know. If she had not won the Globe, I would be, I'd probably go with Jean-Baptiste. But I read something like in the last 30 years, like 2 women have won Best Actress in a Motion Picture Drama at the Globes and did not get the Oscar nomination. Like, it's pretty well everybody gets that.
Yeah.
So I'm like, so you're telling me that Fernanda Torres is going to win the Globe and then just not be nominated anywhere else the rest of the season? That just feels weird to me. I don't think that's going to happen. So it's close. It's like 48-52. Like, I'm really close. But I'm going to go with Torres.
I feel that. And she would be my choice to get in. She is my 6th spot, if we want to call it that. And it really is just going back and forth. It's what I'm feeling that day, that hour of who I put in. I would love to see her get in. I love that movie. her performance is just heartbreaking and emotional, and she holds that film together. And I think all of the narratives you talked about, you know, her mom 26 years ago is just beautiful, and seeing them cheer from home for her during the ceremony, I loved it. I love that it was a surprise. I would love to see her get in. I'm glad we have so many performances that we want to get in. And it's kind of funny that, you know, we look at drama and then comedy musical with the Globes, and the case this year is that she's drama and maybe less likely to win the Oscar, but still, I would really like to see her get in.
Oh, yeah, I think her win, Fernanda Torres, like her win would be getting the nomination, you know, because she's not in at like 3 of these big precursor ceremonies. So just, I can see it. I can see that happening, and she would deserve it because she's incredible in that film. So, but at the same time, I want Marianne Jean-Baptiste to get nominated too. So I'm like, for the longest time, I really didn't know how to, you know, make room for those two because of Angelina Jolie.
I know.
But she didn't get the SAG nomination.
Too. Yeah. She wasn't on the BAFTA long list. I loved Jolie's performance too. I was like, I saw that movie. It was set. Another Pablo Larraín film where the previous 2 performances got in, and Stewart was a shock. And I'm like, okay, why is Jolie not getting in my favorite of the trilogy's films? And here we are.
I don't think it's a 0% chance that Jolie pulls it off, but I think she needed the SAG nomination. I think the Kristen Stewart Spencer thing it's a little different because I did feel at the time, I remember like a lot of passion for Kristen Stewart, like a lot, where I'm not feeling that so much this year for Jolie, like almost at all. Like it's just like there's not a whole lot of enthusiasm. So I don't know.
It makes me feel like DiCaprio kind of falling out last year.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Someone who is really beloved, really well known, a previous winner, and they just fall off. And it's kind of interesting. And that movie, in terms of Maria, has crafts, really good crafts. But we don't have another performance that could be nominated lifting her up, like with Lily Gladstone and Leo, and him kind of lifting her up. But we do with some of these other movies, whether it's supporting or another co-lead situation. I don't know. You could probably argue it either way for either of these, but it's tough. It's close, at least. And I'm honestly happy with either of them, whichever way it falls.
Yeah, so it's not looking good for Jolie for many weeks, maybe even months, I would say. I was crossing my fingers for Nicole Kidman in Baby Girl. That's one of my favorite performances of the year. Yeah. But it's like just the Golden Globe nomination for her. It doesn't look like she's going anywhere else. But so that's a bummer for Kidman because I think she's great in that. We should mention Pamela Anderson, The Last Showgirl, got in at SAG. Yeah. I don't think she has a shot at an Oscar nomination, do you?
I mean, the Jamie Lee Curtis inclusion is funny too. Yeah. That's kind of the craziness of SAG, but I don't see that happening either. There are a lot of probably nots. I have like 6 alternates listed of like, they have something somewhere along the line, but I'm like, it's not happening. Kate Winslet for Lee, BAFTA long list. Most likely not happening. It just, some of these narratives just kind of fell off throughout the year.
That's been a tough one. I'm a huge Kate Winslet fan, but I'm like, of all years, Kate, you got to sit this one out. Like, that's not, like, do not have that happen in this field of like 10 plus incredible performances. Yeah. Mostly newcomers really to the category. Like, no. Pamela Anderson, I'm getting like a Jennifer Aniston cake vibe. Right? Jennifer Aniston got, I think, Golden Globe and SAG nominations for that a decade ago. That kind of like, against type, an actor, a person we know of, we've known them for decades and they do something different. And so we nominate them at Golden Globes and SAG. But I just don't see Academy voters like going for Pamela Anderson. That would surprise me. It's not impossible. But yeah, I think I'm feeling pretty good about our sixth. The question is who gets that final slot.
And it's funny, like early this year, we were thinking Amy Adams, and she's shown up twice. But like, I don't think that's happening. That's a fun movie, but
I thought she was going to be stronger. I thought I saw it at the Toronto Film Festival, and I didn't even like Night Bitch very much. But I said she's absolutely getting in at SAG for that. Like that's a SAG nomination.
Yeah, well,
she couldn't even get the SAG nomination. That's crazy.
Yeah, nope. Sorry, Amy.
Yeah, not going to happen for Amy this year, but I think she's like in post-production on a couple things already, so like there's always next year, right? It's like Glenn Close. Whenever she has another movie, I'm like, well, this could be the one. Okay, Nick, so coming to the end of Best Actors here, let me give our final predictions are Mikey Madison, Honora, Demi Moore, The Substance, Carla Sofia Gascon, Amelia Perez, Cynthia Erivo, Wicked. I have in that final slot Fernanda Torres, I'm Still Here, and you have Marianne Jean-Baptiste, Hard Truths. All right, next up is Best Actor, Nick, and this is going to be quick. We don't have a whole lot to talk about here.
Love that.
This is the one of the 4 acting categories. It's already kind of been sewn up for a few months. There was just some question about that final slots, and I wanted to wait to see what happened at SAG. I said if Daniel Craig can get in at SAG, that might be it.
Right.
So let's kind of go through this one a little bit quicker. At the top, of course, my top 2 are Adrian Brody, The Brutalist, and Timothée Chalamet, A Complete Unknown. I'm still not 100% convinced that Brody is just going to sweep the season. I have a sense that Chalamet might put up a fight. What do you think?
Well, it's funny that lead actor, our 5 nominees are pretty much all sewn up, but it's the category that I'm most unsure of an actual winner.
Gotcha.
I'm thinking it will be Brody. I'm not sure. Timothy needs to win somewhere along the way. And it might come down to SAG, because I think that might be his best shot. I agree about those top 2, but it's really like a top 4 to me, because along with them, I would say 3rd and 4th spot are also interchangeable. I have Ray Fiennes for Conclave and then Coleman Domingo for Sing Sing. I would probably put Ray at 3.
Right.
Because Coleman is the only nomination for Sing Sing here, at SAG at least. Clarence Macklin showed up on the BAFTA long list, so it's at least for SAG, which in terms of the Academy's biggest sector, I was expecting more for that movie, but I still think he's a lock. He's shown up everywhere in terms of nominations. So those 2 to me are also pretty set.
Yeah, I would also put Ray Fiennes in 3rd place because Conclave has just been doing better, like all award season, getting in a variety of categories. Sing Sing has not been doing very well. I thought Sing Sing would get into ensemble and supporting actor for Clarence Macklin at SAG. That surprised me that it only got in for Domingo. So it's interesting. It's like we're having another Rustin year for Domingo. Like Rustin, like outside of I think like a Golden Globe nomination for song, like that movie got in nowhere but Best Actor, and he secured the Oscar nomination. And it's looking like, I mean, Sing Sing could potentially, on Oscar nominations morning, just get into Best Actor for Coleman Domingo. Like it could happen twice in 2 years for the same person. That'd be crazy.
Poor guy. I mean, his performance is great. And honestly, there's probably a small path, but I think there's still a path that he could win, that I would really like to see him win, especially 2 years in a row. He's nominated. You know, he was deserving for Rustin too. And it's hard. Again, this is a category where Adrian Brody, a previous winner, Timothy, a previous nominee, Ray, a previous nominee. He hasn't won. But beloved actors that have been around for a while. Not Timothy, but I would even say with Daniel Craig, who this will be his first nomination if he gets nominated. We'll see what we think about spot 5, but I'm kind of glad it's a little up in the air, because this is the fun of it, of, you know, hoping that other actors can win in certain places and maybe not steamroll the whole award season.
Yeah, for like a brief moment there in December, Domingo won a couple things, I want to say, right at the beginning. And I thought, man, wouldn't that be something if Coleman Domingo became kind of the front runner in Best Actor, and Sing Sing like got in everywhere, and supporting actor and picture, and you know, it like wins ensemble at SAG or something, and Coleman Domingo like starts to overtake Brody and Chalamet. I was kind of hoping for that because he's so great in that film. Yeah. And it's like he just got nominated for Rustin. It's like, let's give Domingo a big prize. That would be great. He's deserving. He's in his 50s and he's really having a moment right now, and overdue to be sure. But at this point, yeah, I think he just gets the Oscar nomination, and there's not going to be much suspense with him potentially winning. So 5th place slots, I'm going with the SAG 5. I think Daniel Craig will get his first Oscar nomination for Queer, even though that's a very divisive film, and I had some issues with it, and I walked out of the theater at TIFF, and I was like, I don't think it's going to happen for Daniel Craig. I don't know. But I think Best Actor has been so weak this year. Oddly, usually Best Actor, we've got 8 or 9 big contenders kind of a thing. There's not really an alternate here I feel strongly enough about to say that Craig could miss. Like, what do you think? Do you think Craig is getting in?
I have him in. I think he will get in. I think he's deserving of getting in. It's funny that, it's like we have this drop-off where we've seen Sebastian Stan win the Golden Globe, and he's nominated for he's on the BAFTA long list for The Apprentice, the movie he didn't win for. We have Jesse Eisenberg, we have Glenn Powell, and Hugh Grant, who is way more in the conversation than I ever expected for a movie that in any other year I would not expect to get an Oscar nomination. So I think it's likely that he's going to get in. It's funny that, Queer, I think, is Luca's probably hardest to watch. Bones and All might have been tough for voters as well. But it's just so artistic and still him. So I enjoyed the watch. It was a little different, but I think his performance is definitely that showcase.
Yeah, so if Craig somehow were to miss, do you have like strong feelings about a 6th place, an alternate, or are you just kind of like it's a free flow?
I have zero feelings about somebody else.
Okay.
Which I guess would be Sebastian Stan, just from what we've seen. But again, his movies are split, so is that almost like ballot splitting? Like, I don't even know how that works. Do you have him in for something, or what's your alternate?
So my main alternate is Sebastian Stan, The Apprentice, but I would not feel confident about that. I do think that has hurt him in a weird way, having 2 acclaimed performances, winning the Globe for the other movie, A Different Man. I mean, The Apprentice. Have you seen The Apprentice? It's very entertaining. It's very good. I really enjoyed it. It was way better than I thought it would be.
It's funny because that is the only movie throughout all of the SAG nominations that I haven't seen. And I've just been putting it off. Maybe I shouldn't be, but if you say that it's really fun, that's honestly not what I expected from that.
I was kind of avoiding it too, and then I got like a screener, like someone emailed me like the link to the movie. I was like, okay, I'll watch it.
You're like, fine.
I was actually pretty good, and he and Jeremy Strong give amazing performances. So I understand why they've been a part of the season a little bit, but it is weird. It is weird that Stan, like, he gets double nominated at the Globes, and then he's not nominated at all, right? At Critics' Choice or SAG.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, I don't know what to do with that.
Exactly.
I think, like, you know, I thought maybe if they really loved A Real Pain, that Jesse Eisenberg could get the final slot. I've thought that for a long time.
Yeah.
If like Eisenberg had gotten in at SAG over Craig, I think I would just go with Eisenberg. But because Craig made it in there, because he's such a beloved actor and has never received an Oscar nomination, it looks like that might be like Luca Guadagnino's one big Oscar nomination of the year, with both Queer and Challengers. Challengers, one of my favorite films of the year. I was
going to say that one for sure.
It looks like his big nomination for, you know, one of his two movies will be Daniel Craig in Best Actor for Queer.
Yeah. And talking about Jesse just for a second, because I kind of expected him to take the Globe.
Me too.
Because he had been winning prizes. And I'm like, well, if he wins there and then shows up with SAG or something else, I think that would have been a narrative. But I think missing there and getting over that hump of Daniel Craig getting the SAG nomination, I think is strong enough to put him in 5 pretty solidly.
Yeah, so I would say outside of a shocker, these are going to be our 5 in Best Actor on Oscar nominations morning. Right now, if you had to guess, who's winning, Brody or Chalamet? The Oscar.
I would say Brody.
Yeah, me too. I'm still thinking Brody has a little bit, better chance, but Chalamet, I do think could win at SAG because The Brutalist underperformed there, and A Complete Unknown did crazy well.
Right.
So,
yeah,
right? Like Brody could lose at SAG.
He could, and you have a performance, you have a biopic performance, something we talk about every year, and that is Chalamet. So why not? I think it's definitely possible. I don't know if it's 52-48 this time, but I think it's still kind of close.
Yeah, it's going to be really tough if, like, Brody wins at Critics' Choice. Let's say he also wins at BAFTA, but Chalamet wins SAG. Going into the Oscars, that's going to be tough, like, to decide who they want to reward there, because Brody does have one. That could mean the difference. I don't know. But in terms of nominations, I'm feeling pretty good about these 5. And Best Actor, our final predictions are Adrian Brody, The Brutalist, Timothée Chalamet, A Complete Unknown, Ray Fiennes, Conclave, Coleman Domingo, Sing Sing, and Daniel Craig, Queer. All right, Nick, now we have Best Supporting Actress. This has been a wild category since the beginning, and SAG really just made me scratch my head even more. So I'm curious to see what you're doing here with final predictions for the Oscars. So I think everybody has to, right? In their top 2 here, they have to have Zoe Saldana, Emilia Perez, and Ariana Grande, Wicked, right? Those are the 2 who could win.
Yeah.
One of those could win, and I'm still not entirely convinced Saldana has this in the bag at the Oscars. If Grande wins 1 or 2 big things and gives like really great speeches, Grande has a chance too. Like, how are you feeling about those 2 right now?
I do feel stronger about Saldana, but I agree if Ariana wins with SAG, say where Saldana might have won her Golden Globe from a more international crowd, then maybe we'll be a little bit more confused. It might have to come down to BAFTA, which might go to her as well. But I think it's very much their competition. It's one of them too. We've seen the other nominees at certain ceremonies. We've seen some not at those same ceremonies. So it's kind of tough. From there, if everyone else is split, then it really narrows it down to these 2.
Yeah. I mean, Grande, I think, has to win SAG to maybe go on to win the Oscar. I have always felt about her, besides that it's a more comedic performance than Saldana gives, and that I feel like hurts Grande a little bit. It's that there's a second half of the movie still to come. That is, I feel like some voters might be like, do we want to reward Grande now? We could wait a year. I mean, it'd be too bad for Grande if next year there's some like incredible front runner and there's no way Grande can win, and then she's like, well, thanks a lot. But doesn't it feel weird to reward her for the first half of a movie? I don't know. I just that's where I'm like, I'm not fully convinced. But I still think she could win big, like at SAG, where they went all in on Wicked. Like Selena Gomez missed in supporting actress there, but like Jonathan Bailey got into supporting actor. So they really love Wicked at SAG, and Grande could beat Saldana there.
And what you were saying about Grande is what I was thinking about even Cynthia Erivo initially getting in, of like, you know, she'll have a really big act 2.
Right.
Maybe they just nominate her then, but now it's kind of flipped. So I don't know. Maybe they do want to reward Ariana because her vocals were insane. She gave such a comedic performance that kind of blew everyone away. So I think both of them have good chances of at least getting in, I will say. From here, we kind of have to see how Ariana performs. And if she wins one or two things, I think it's really likely it's going to be a really close race.
Yeah, were you predicting Grande would be Oscar nominated like in September, October? Because I wasn't.
Not before that movie came out. Probably not. I was like, oh, not this again. But, you know, it's another Ariana. And the other one, DeVos, won for another musical. So
if West Side Story had been 2 movies, though, maybe she would have lost.
See? Maybe we have to wait till next year.
They're greedy. So, yeah, those are the top 2. Beyond those 2, I feel like if you got a room full of 10 people, like Oscar pundits and things, I feel like most of those people would have like different lists in 3, 4, and 5.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I've done the first 2, Nick. Who is your third place choice to get the Oscar nomination for supporting actress?
I think because The Brutalist underperformed a little bit here, I'm going to go with Isabella Rossellini for Conclave as my number 3, which is also something we didn't say a couple months ago. But I think it's pretty certain at this point. Everyone loves this movie, and her especially.
Yep, she's my number 3 as well. And what a year it's been, because I'm a huge fan of hers. Like, I think her performance in Blue Velvet is one of the finest of the 80s. I think she is fantastic. Death Becomes Her is one of my favorite movies of all time. So I'm a big fan of hers. And I saw the trailer for Conclave, and she had a couple beats in that. And I went, oh, could this be like an Oscar play for her? And then I saw the movie. She has like 7 lines of dialogue. Yeah. And I went, oh, she's not in it enough. That's too bad. They couldn't give her a couple more scenes? Come on. And now I have her in 3rd place for the Oscar nomination. How did that happen, Nick?
It's crazy. It's not Barbara Hershey, but she's in this movie for less than 8 minutes.
It's less than, very brief.
Which is crazy. Yeah, I saw it and I'm like, she's barely in it. She doesn't do anything. But yet, here we are.
Here we are. She definitely has the narrative, you know, being the daughter of Ingrid Bergman, 3-time Oscar winner. Bergman's 3rd Oscar win for Murder on the Orient Express is basically for one scene in that 2-hour plus movie. Yeah. And Rossellini's got that one great moment about halfway through. If she didn't have that scene, then I would say this isn't going to happen.
No, yeah.
Also because supporting actress has been so chaotic, like from the Globes to Critics' Choice to SAG, it's like 2 different nominees at each voting group. I'm just like, you know, everybody really loves Rossellini. We need someone like a veteran in the category. It's not going to just be a bunch of young, you know, women under 40 and stuff. Like, we need someone a little bit more seasoned. And also because Conclave has been doing so frickin' well. If that movie wasn't getting into picture, director, actor, then I would say not going to happen. I think she is kind of riding the coattails of the film's popularity.
Which, if that works, then so be it. And we both have her at 3. Who do you have in your 4th spot?
Okay, and so now it gets really like, oh boy. Like, I have my 4 alternates here. I could see a reality where one of them get into 4 and 5 or whatever. I'm taking a swing here based on SAG and based on the growing popularity for A Complete Unknown. My 4th place, I have Monica Barbaro.
Oh my gosh.
For A Complete Unknown. Do you have her in your 5?
I don't.
You don't?
And the fact that she's in your 4th spot, I'm curious who you have in 5. But
I mean, part of it is I just watched the movie, Nick, and I was really taken with her in that. I thought she was great. Yeah. And I'm like, that's too bad she's not going to be a part of the season. Right. And her getting the SAG nomination, and I feel like A Complete Unknown is growing. Like James Mangold got the DGA nomination. Did not expect that.
Yeah.
I think everyone is expecting A Complete Unknown to get into lead actor and supporting actor. So in a category where, you know, supporting actress, anything can kind of happen. We can get a couple surprises. Mm-hmm. I know it might just be the SAG nomination for her, but she's very good in playing Joan Baez, and she has a lot of screen time, and like she has a ton of presence in that movie. If there is a lot of love from Academy members for A Complete Unknown, I think she gets in. That's what I'm thinking.
I think she could. Yeah, she's probably, if I had to look at everybody, she would be in my 6th spot.
Okay.
So she's not far off. I think we're close with a few. You know, it comes down to looking at all of the other precursor nominations that they have, and she has SAG, but none of the others. And then, like we mentioned Selena Gomez before, she is on the BAFTA long list, and she had the Golden Globe nom. But at SAG, she was only nominated via the cast for Emilia Perez. She didn't get the nomination. So it's, I don't know. You have...
Yeah, and it's mostly because that film is gaining so much strength.
Yeah.
That's where I was like, if she can just get in somewhere, and then she got the SAG nom, and I went, okay, I think that could happen. She could also easily miss. Who is your 4th place slot?
This is tough.
I know.
And this just might not be a category that I change because it's so confusing. But yeah. I think I'm sticking with who I've had. Flip a coin. I think I'm going to go with Margaret Qualley for The Substance. And this, if we compare that to Isabella Rossellini riding the coattails of that movie, you know, maybe Qualley is here a little bit, but she has shown up, not at SAG, but she has shown up in the other places. And again, this movie could be gaining attention and speed as we go through the season, just depending on how Demi does. Maybe that will, you know, bring more attention to it. But I think, I don't know.
She would be in my 5 if she had gotten the SAG nomination. There's just, I wonder if there's going to be so much focus put on more. I wonder if Qualley could fall through the cracks at the end of the day when it comes to the Oscars. I don't know.
It could. It's not, I don't know. They share that movie. They split that movie. I mean, that's literally what it is sharing. You know, you have 1 week, I have 1 week. But in terms of appearances, it's not either of them more than the other. So I'm like, why not Margaret Qualley getting in?
Yeah. Yeah, I think it'll depend on how well the movie does. Like, if it gets into picture, if Farja could secure a director nomination,
I think for sure
then I think you're right. So it's kind of like, I thought about including Qualley. She is my main alternate. She's my 6th place. She's not my 5th, though.
Okay.
My 5th place slot, even though she just has the Globe nomination and a BAFTA long list, right? Felicity Jones, the Brutalist, deserves to get the Oscar nomination. She is so freaking great in the second half of that movie. That would feel really wrong to me for Jones to miss at the Oscars. Do you have her in?
I have her in, and I almost put her in at 4, but you saying Monica made me second guess that. So another situation where it's kind of flipped 4 and 5. I really want Felicity to get in. She has a great Oscar scene. She has a great performance the entire movie. She has multiple scenes, actually. But because that movie underperformed, it just makes you question everything. So,
yeah, like, so
I'm not sure, but
yeah, so Jones is not nominated at Critics' Choice or SAG, right? But she has the BAFTA long list. Like, she could get in there.
Yeah.
I don't know. I wondered, like, coming out of the theater, I wondered, like, you know, you don't see her till the second half. Is that going to be a problem? And I wonder if it might be at the end of the day. Like, if she misses, like, I think she's much better in The Brutalist than she is in The Theory of Everything. Mm-hmm. She got nominated for that. You know, I'm like, come on. So it kind of like A Complete Unknown and The Substance, it will kind of depend on how well The Brutalist does with the Academy.
Yeah.
If they like I think if one or the other can get in, Guy Pearce probably has a better shot of getting the nomination than Jones at this point. But I don't know. This is tricky. Supporting actress is really tricky to nail down those 5.
Yeah. I think her presence only in Act 2 makes it a perfect supporting nomination as well. And that scene, when she is being dragged at the very end, you're kind of left with that. That's one of the last scenes of the movie. Mm-hmm. And so you're kind of stuck with that feeling of dread and her standing up for the family. So I don't know. I think that could resonate with voters too, and just be on their minds as that movie ends. I hope so.
I just, that would feel weird to me if The Brutalist gets 7, 8, 9 nominations and they don't give a nomination to Felicity Jones in a category that has been extremely chaotic. That I feel like even though she's missed a couple key places, I just feel once we get, sometimes this happens every year with like 1 or 2 people, I'm like, they miss here, they miss there, and I'm like, the Oscars are going to do this person right. And then they do it. You know, and then they do nominate Felicity Jones, and I'm like, okay, good. I'm getting that sense. Like they're going to do the right thing there, but you never know. So yeah, I mean, maybe to make this easier, maybe I'll flip it. Maybe I'll have Jones in 4th and then Barbaro in 5th, because maybe it does make more sense. Maybe it makes more sense that Jones would get in over Barbaro. You know, if Barbaro had not gotten the SAG nomination, we wouldn't even be talking about her. Or I wouldn't be, probably. There's also Danielle Deadwyler, The Piano Lesson, who surprisingly showed up at SAG, right? That was kind of a surprise. I thought, you know, I just like, this movie has like no steam left. Like, that movie just crashed and burned come award season. For her to get the SAG nomination, I'm like, it's hard because she got in at SAG for Till. And that was one of my 3 or 4 favorite performances of 2022. And it was so crushing when she missed the Oscar nomination. And it's almost harder in a way. It's like, oh God, now she got the SAG nomination, and she's probably going to miss the Oscar nomination again. Yeah. So, like, what are we doing with Deadwyler here, people? Come on, it's too much. Do you think she could get the Oscar nomination, Deadwyler? Like, surprise, kind of.
It would be a big surprise. I think for that movie expected to show up. More so for Samuel Jackson, like earlier in the year before we knew much about that movie. And that totally fizzled. And I think something like Emilia Perez with Selena Gomez, where we've seen her show up in places and maybe question that, but it's happened time and time again, that I would probably have her higher than Danielle Deadwyler. Another SAG, like I mentioned earlier, Jamie Lee Curtis, who was also on the BAFTA long list. I'm like,
is she going to get the Oscar?
Consider her now?
Can you imagine? That would be crazy.
It's a crazy performance. That would be insane. But she is now an Oscar winner, so it's not out of the realm of possibilities either.
Yeah, it'd be really weird if like Pamela Anderson does not get the Oscar nomination, but Jamie Lee Curtis makes it in, and that's the only nomination for the movie. That would be weird. I'd be like, okay.
It's a very Jamie Lee Curtis move. Just, I don't know, with her showing up throughout award seasons the past few years, it's just kind of funny at this point. It's a little bit, but I don't know. It is unlikely, though, I would say.
I mean, I was proven wrong 2 years ago. Like when, like I was like, she's not going to get the Oscar nomination for Everything Everywhere. Like that's not going to happen. And then it happened, and then she won at SAG, and I'm like, well, she's not going to win the Oscar. I mean, so Jamie Lee Curtis, you have proven me wrong time and time again. So who knows? Have you seen The Last Showgirl? I just don't think it's that strong of a movie. It's okay. It's good. It's not like anything special.
It's a fine movie. It's in terms of Pamela Anderson, even, it's. I just don't have that gut feeling that, something could show up, or that it would be a really exciting surprise if it did, even. It's a weird movie, I think, that will show up with indie bodies and not at the Oscars. That's kind of how I feel about it.
Like, I saw someone compare it to Nyad a few hours ago. Like, it could be this year's Nyad. It's into lead actress and supporting actress. And I'm like, well, I think, like, how do you compare, like, Annette Bening and Jodie Foster and what they're doing and a much more of, like, a biopic? I think, I don't really put them at the same level.
That's funny.
But in some ways, I do feel like if Curtis were to get the Oscar nomination, Anderson probably gets in too. It would just feel weird if only one made it. Like if only Curtis got in.
Yeah.
But boy, that would be crazy.
Funny.
I mean, Oscar voting opened, right? The day of the SAG nominations. Is that right? So you never know, man. You never know.
I don't know.
The only other person I have here we haven't talked about that I predicted in my early predictions video was Anjanou Ellis-Taylor for Nickel Boys. She got in at Critics' Choice. Nickel Boys hasn't been doing very well, so I'm not seeing that right now.
Which is crazy.
But, I've always kind of had her a little bit, on the bubble a bit for that movie. Like if that movie can get like one big nomination outside of like picture or something, supporting actress made sense, but no.
She hasn't shown up anywhere. It's what I felt like an even shorter performance than Isabella Rossellini. I think that focus of that movie is so much on those two boys that she has some great scenes with them, but it feels less likely that the Academy would nominate her for that. When we had her nominated for King Richard, where it was like this triumphant performance that I loved. Mm-hmm. This is just so different than that, and especially with Nickel Boys that is underperforming, which I hate to see. Like, I want it to show up in director and picture and all of these categories, but I don't necessarily see supporting actress happening for it.
Yeah, so I have a feeling you might be right on this one. You might be right about Quali over Barbaro. I feel like Barbaro is a bit of a stretch compared to Quali because, she is. You're right. She is really like kind of half of that film, sharing it with Moore. And if you're going to nominate that movie everywhere, and Moore is going to be competitive to win Best Actress at the Oscars, it would probably make sense for Quali to get into supporting. I'm just like, why did she miss at SAG? What happened there? How did Daniel Deadwyler get in over Quali? Right? So that gives me a little pause about Quali.
It's maybe because she's been nominated before. My thing is, we have to think international, and The Substance won screenplay at Cannes in May. Yeah. So now this is 7 months later that we're still talking about it and more people are seeing it. And, maybe it is the performances that shine in the end in terms of what we end up talking about. I mean, you can't get that picture of Monster Eliza Sue out of your head. And that's Margaret Qualley. So it's like, I go back and forth, but at the end of the day, I think I just can't stop thinking about that movie.
Yeah. So we shall see what happens. I'm thinking you might be right on this one more than me, but I'm going to stick with what I've decided to predict.
Yeah.
My final predictions in Best Supporting Actress at the Oscars are Zoe Saldana, Emilia Perez, Ariana Grande, Wicked, Isabella Rossellini, Conclave, Felicity Jones, The Brutalist. In my 5th place slot, I'm going to go with Monica Barbaro, A Complete Unknown. You are going in that final slot with Margaret Qualley, The Substance. All right, our last category we're talking about today is Best Supporting Actor. So my top 2 here, Nick, would be Kieran Culkin, of course, for A Real Pain, and Edward Norton, A Complete Unknown. As of now, Nick, I think this is the category. Like, Culkin is just gonna sweep. I don't see someone winning over him. Like, I saw A Real Pain a year ago at Sundance, and I walked out and I was like, that took me a moment just to like come down, like back down to earth from that.
Yeah.
Because he's so great. He is a force of nature in that thing. And I was like, if he goes lead actor, he'll probably get nominated. If he goes supporting, he'll probably win. Here we are, and he's the front runner, and there's no one, I think, who can overtake him at this point. So it's kind of like, okay, 2nd place, 3rd place, we can talk about it and stuff. But would you have Edward Norton in 2nd for supporting actor at the Oscars?
He's not my number 2.
Okay.
He's honestly, I should maybe switch somebody out, but I don't even have him in my 5.
Edward Norton?
Edward Norton for A Complete Unknown. I don't.
Has he missed anywhere? Hasn't he gotten in at Golden Globe, Critics' Choice, SAG?
Yeah, I know.
3-time Oscar nominee. Everyone loves him. A very popular movie. What's going on, Nick?
It's his performance.
It's okay.
I wasn't super wowed by it. He ends up being this sort of villain in the end. And less of a villain than Guy Pearce, who I do have in, who missed at SAG. I mean, 3 of my choices missed at SAG.
Okay.
I think this is a situation where the movie overperformed. I should probably put him in, but I don't feel that strong about it yet that I'm going to just yet. And I might do it right before nominations, but I would say in my spot, from the fact that he's also shown up everywhere, and I am surprised I'm saying that he's in my 2nd spot, is Yura Borisov for Anora.
Yeah. He's my 3rd, yeah.
So I think SAG just shook everything up so much that I wasn't necessarily sure. Yeah.
Yeah, Borisov, he was one I was like, he'll probably miss at the Globes and Critics' Choice and SAG, but he'll get the BAFTA nomination, and he'll be kind of the surprise coattail nomination for Anora in supporting actor. I have been very surprised to see him get in everywhere. He's like doing fantastic. And he's so great in that movie, especially in the last half hour or so. He's so moving in that film. I'm very happy that in the acting categories, it's not just Madison. I think Borisov deserves to be there. So that's great. And at this point, I think he's absolutely guaranteed that Oscar nomination. Next up for me, even though he misses SAG, I think Guy Pearce is getting in for The Brutalist, right?
Okay.
Like, he's going to get nominated at the Oscar.
Yeah, I definitely have Guy Pearce. Again, the movie underperformed. We can say it time and again, but I think that performance is so strong. It is so subtly villainous that it gets at you. You can't think about this movie without thinking of him. I hope he gets in. I think he's going to get in. I hope he gets in.
I will be devastated if Pearce misses, because he's been an actor I've adored since the 90s, since I was a teenager and saw LA Confidential, and then Memento is one of my favorite films, and I think he's so talented, and he's never been Oscar nominated before, and just that was the right role at the right time for him in The Brutalist. And it's like, that movie's getting into picture, director, actor. Like, that would be really annoying if they snubbed him in supporting actor. In like a category that it doesn't have like 10 like obvious contenders. Like, there's really like 7-ish people fighting it out for those 5 slots. So, like, come on. Like, that pissed me off, Nick, that he missed it. So, I was like, what are you guys thinking?
He has a great narrative. Yeah.
Like, I thought in September, I thought like Pierce could maybe become like, if not the front runner, like second place next to Kieran Culkin, like to be competitive to maybe win somewhere.
Right.
I still think he could maybe overtake Culkin at BAFTA if he gets nominated at BAFTA. He's on the long list, right? At BAFTA.
Yeah.
I'm still not fully convinced that Culkin wins there. If he wins a BAFTA, then it's like fully over.
It's all over. Yeah, it's fully. We'll keep waiting for that one more. Like, maybe that's how award season goes. But I think he's probably going to take it everywhere. When I saw The Brutalist, I was like, I hope Guy Pearce wins. This is also an incredible narrative in terms of coming back into the conversation in terms of awards. Yeah, it's been a while since he has, and this would have been the perfect time. And it shocked me a little bit that Kieran Culkin was winning every single prize, every critics prize. There's just no stopping him. So I mean, I can hope that guy can win along the way and maybe shake things up, but it's definitely Kieran. I'm hoping Guy. Who is your next place? I guess that was your third.
Okay, so I have right now, I have Culkin, I have Norton, I have Borisov, and I have Pierce. So those are 4 of my 5. I think we've only touched on 3 of yours, right? You just have Culkin, Borisov,
and Pierce.
So here,
right.
Who is your 4th place?
Well, this is where it gets tricky, because they both miss SAG, and one is one of the greatest actors of all time, and one is a quote-unquote newcomer that Jane Fonda has recently called the next Marlon Brando.
Oh, okay.
So, I'm thinking of, maybe switching one of them out with Norton, because this movie is doing so well now, but it seems pretty silly to switch him out with Denzel Washington, right? But I think that movie is underperforming, and I don't think we're going to see it show up in as many places as even we may think at this point come Oscar nomination morning. So, I mean, it hurts to take out Clarence Macklin. Those are the 2 people.
So your 4th and 5th place are Macklin and Washington?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, Macklin, I wanted to predict him. I think him missing SAG really hurts. Like, he got into Critics' Choice. He did not get the Globe nomination. He's BAFTA longlisted, right, Macklin? I think he is,
yeah, and so is Denzel.
Denzel. I think Sing Sing, I mean, both, right? Both Sing Sing and Gladiator 2 are not doing as well as we might have thought, like, October, November. But here's the thing. The Academy loves Denzel Washington. I always go back to that Best Actor nomination for Roman J. Israel Esquire. Nick. My 5th place is Denzel Washington for Gladiator 2. I think because of the huge love for him, even though he did miss at SAG, and that was surprising to me.
Very
I think
surprising.
If he had gotten that sewn up, he would have been nominated at the Oscars for sure. I just think that, like, he got in at the Globes, at Critics' Choice. He's BAFTA longlisted. They've never nominated him at BAFTA, so I'm sure they're going to snub him again. I don't know.
Right.
I think Gladiator 2 gets a few technical nominations. It's not like just going to be ignored everywhere.
Right.
So, I don't know. It's tricky. If I had to choose between Washington and Macklin, if that's our 5th place, like, I have Norton in safely, I think Washington has the upper hand.
Yeah. I think the big question is, how does Washington not get in? And someone like Yura Borisov, this is the first season where we've ever talked about him. he gets in at SAG. Like,
Yeah.
how does that happen? That's the big question. But I think at the end of the day, yes, you have to go with Denzel over a movie that's underperforming, a performance that's great, but also underperforming with bodies that we assumed he would have shown up at. And that's Clarence Macklin. So I think I would go with you. Probably, potentially, switch him out with Edward Norton.
And then we're 5 for 5.
Maybe see how a few of these other, even craft categories, but other ceremonies between now and Oscar nomination Sunday.
As of this recording.
Up. Yeah, right. I know.
Sunday the 19th.
It could change again. Yeah. But see how some of those go in terms of fifth spot switching out. But it's kind of crazy that Denzel has fallen that far.
Yeah, I was like, when Culkin won at the Globes, I was like, okay, so Denzel Washington has to show up to like 3-4 ceremonies this year, sit there knowing he has zero shot. It's kind of like he's kind of above this at this point, right?
Was he even at the Globes?
He was there.
Okay.
Oh man,
I didn't see any shots.
It makes me. It's so funny if you go back to you watch clips of the Golden Globes in the 1980s. Oftentimes, one person is there of the 5.
Right.
Oftentimes, there's no one to give a speech. They're like, oh, they couldn't show. And then now it's like, you do not miss showing up at Golden Globes. If you want to be a part of this award season, you better sit your ass down.
Yeah.
And I think everyone was there except Jeremy Allen White, who won for The Bear, was shooting.
Yeah.
He's shooting a Bruce Springsteen movie. So he wasn't there. That's what I read. But everyone else is there.
Yeah. Yeah. The place to be. Go get your
place to be that first
bag.
Sunday of January. The one other person I have as my main alternate, Nick, is Jeremy Strong, The Apprentice, who has done very well. Like he got in at the Globes and he got the SAG nomination. I just question the movie, The Apprentice. Like I feel like that could be one of those films. Shows up a couple places, precursors, but like on Oscar nominations morning, The Apprentice, for whatever reason, is just shut out, and Strong doesn't make it in. That's the sense I have about him in that movie. But like Jeremy Strong could get the Oscar nomination over Washington. Like that could happen. Like I'm not predicting it here, but I feel like we need to be prepared for that. Like that could happen too.
But if, as we said, Stan isn't getting in, is Jeremy Strong going to be that only movies nomination?
Yeah, that's
the other thing. That doesn't feel right either.
I think if Craig were to somehow miss and the 5th place slot in Best Actor went to Sebastian Stan for The Apprentice, then I think Jeremy Strong makes it into supporting actor. I do think they go together.
Yeah.
Which is why I'm like, why are you not predicting Margaret Qualley, Brian? Because they kind of go together too. So I don't know. I go against my own thoughts here sometimes. Sorry about that.
But, we all do. Yeah. I don't think it's likely.
Case basis.
Yeah.
I would not feel a lot of confidence predicting Strong over Washington. And I'm feeling pretty good about Culkin, Norton, Borisov, and Pierce. I feel pretty good about those 4.
Right.
The 5th place is my only question mark. I don't think Jonathan Bailey is getting the Oscar nomination, although he got the SAG nomination. I think that's a SAG thing.
Yeah.
A lovely surprise. He's very charming in that movie, but that would surprise me if he got the Oscar nomination. The one other person to mention, Nick, is Stanley Tucci, Conclave. I have always wondered if he could come from behind. If there is enough love for Conclave right there at the end, if Tucci could make it in at the Oscars and surprise us all.
Right.
I don't think it's outside the realm of possibility. People love him.
It's not. But it's funny that, early predictions from June, I think we had Tucci in.
Yeah.
I think we might have had Lithgow in also, but the fact that we had more people for Conclave in there is surprising now that we know that the movie is doing really well and they're not there for most of these ceremonies or the BAFTA long list. So I think it's unlikely.
Yeah.
But if he were to show up at BAFTA with an actual nomination,
yeah, he's longlisted there.
There could be some good potential. I agree about Bailey. I think the fact that Wicked is also in SAG Ensemble, which maybe we expected a little bit, but I think that's where that's coming from, is we now have the top 3 actors from that movie here nominated at SAG.
Yeah.
I think those are the big people. It's, talking even about Harris Dickinson, who's on the BAFTA long list, or Mark Edelstein, who would have been a really fun supporting actor nomination. I'm surprised that he's not the one and it's Yora, but you're kind of left that movie
to be honest
with Yora. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, he gives the bigger performance.
Yeah.
And the Academy doesn't like subtlety. So how do we have Yora so high up? So yeah.
Yeah. I came out of that movie, I really responded to Borisov, but the real flashy supporting actor performance is Edelstein, and I was like, he's probably going to be the play and supporting actor. And I've been honestly surprised that Borisov has just been getting in everywhere, and we've had no mention of Edelstein. I guess part of it is he's so young. Maybe that he's just a lot younger. Maybe. I don't know. But he's that's been weird to me.
Yeah. He's adorable in interviews, seeing him on the red carpet, and he is just immediately, you're attracted to him watching this movie. He's so funny. That's where the slapstick humor comes in, and I think that's the charm of Anora too, is his performance.
What if we had
that would be a fun surprise?
What if we had a Belfast situation, and on Oscar nominations morning, it's not Borisov, it's Edelstein?
Honestly, I could see that happening. That's
Borisov is like, are you effing kidding me?
Right? Yeah. That whole movie. That's what he is. He's like his bodyguard.
Yeah.
He stands to the side and then he comes waltzing in at the end. That would honestly be so funny, but I'm not going to predict that. I don't think anyone can predict that confidently.
That would be, if I came on here and was like, I mean, the Barbaro thing, that's probably the biggest swing I'm making in this long video. If we started talking about supporting actor, Nick, and I was like, honestly, for the Oscar nomination, I'm going to swap out Borisov for Edelstein. I think Edelstein's going to be nominated. You'd be like, okay, Brian.
Okay.
Go for it, dude. So as we come to the end here, Nick, are you feeling like Norton is in your list, or do you still want to have him out?
I think it would be safe to put him in.
Okay.
I think it'd be safe. I think that'd be good. I would agree to that.
And take out
Macklin. Yeah, it hurts, but I think it's the safer bet in terms of just wider appeal at this point. I wish the Sing Sing re-release wasn't on the, what used to be nomination morning.
Yeah.
But at that point, voting will be closed, so it won't matter. So I wish maybe it had been released like early January, so more people would see it, but alas.
They really screwed up the Sing Sing release. It never came to my town, Nick. Like, I had to spend months begging a publicist to send me a link to watch it, because I never got a chance to see it.
That's just, and I've heard that from multiple people. I think they just had too many films.
Yeah.
Like, they really wanted to get Daniel Craig in. They wanted The Brutalist to get out there, which is finally going to be getting out there.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's just having too many balls to juggle at the same time. And they're like, Sing Sing, great. Domingo, he's doing well. Let's let that sit on the back burner.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know all the ins and outs of it. I had the sense that Sing Sing was going to be like a kind of an indie summer sensation, and they started opening it slowly in July, and I thought, okay, August, it'll be kind of like the big must-see indie film, and then it kind of like died out.
Faded
so I don't know.
Yeah.
That's clear. As we have seen, it didn't help, like with award season.
Right.
If that movie had done better at the box office and was more of a thing, I think it would be doing better with these awards bodies. So for supporting actor, Nick, I guess we're in agreement now. I talked you into Norton.
You did. You convinced me.
When you said he wasn't even in your 5, I was like, wait, am I like crazy here?
He wasn't far out anyway. He was in my 6, but you definitely convinced me.
Okay, so I'll I guess I'll put him a little further down then, so to keep it. So our final predictions in Best Supporting Actor at the Oscars are Kieran Culkin, A Real Pain, Yura Borisov, Anora, Edward Norton, A Complete Unknown, Guy Pearce, The Brutalist, and Denzel Washington, Gladiator 2. This has been so much fun, Nick, to talk our final acting Oscar nomination predictions. I would love to have you on again at some point here. 3 years doing this YouTube channel, that was way too long to not have the great Nick Ruhrkraut from Oscar Wilde on the awards contender. You should be a consistent correspondent, Nick. Come on.
Yeah, I'm happy to come back. I appreciate you having me on, and this was really fun and informative. So I'm glad we did this.
Yeah, so tell our viewers where they can find you online, and if you want to talk about your amazing podcast with Sophia Simonello, now's the time.
Yeah, well, with our podcast, Oscar Wilde, go back and listen wherever Film at 50 is and listen to our episode there. But you can find us on all socials at Oscar Wilde Pod. We have our nomination predictions online at oscarwilde.squarespace.com. And yeah, it's a fun chat about past, present, and future Oscars, where we talk about nominees and winners. And that's kind of where our worlds collide. So I'm glad that, we're all in the same sphere, and we'll definitely collaborate in the future.
Awesome. All right, thanks again for being here, Nick, and we will see you next time at the Awards Contender.